The foundation of human understanding teaches an observation exercise, often called meditation, which permits you to become objective toward your problems and allows your heartaches, bad habits, fears, and anxieties to be completely eliminated from your life without effort on your part. Until you have begun to practice this exercise, much of what you see and hear on the following program may be shocking and upsetting to you. But if you will listen calmly and with an open mind, you may discover the key to the peace of mind and joy for which you've been searching all of your life. And now, from the foundation of human understanding, here is Roy Masters.
Well, welcome to the program, How to Control Your Negative Emotions. And I have to apologize to my viewers, and of course my audience, which are my viewers, for my past antics, meaning that I think I go a little too fast for everybody. And now that I've decided to stay on television for a while, I can spread these thoughts out and pace it a little slower so you can follow. It's like throwing an encyclopedia at you. It's just too much. I just want you to absorb just enough so that you can apply it. So I thought we'd start at the very, very beginning and in this discipline of controlling your negative emotions. And the technique is meditation. There are many kinds of meditation. Most meditations are hypnotic, self-hypnotic. There's the kind of meditation, Maharishi's meditation, where you mutter a mantra and you repeat this meaningless sound. It's supposed to have a meaning, but most of it doesn't. As a matter of fact, the less meaning it has, the better for the purposes of the meditator who is escaping from reality. You know, you can drink to escape from reality. You can play music to escape from reality. You can have peace when you escape from reality, from escaping from knowing that you're wrong. That way you sort of kill your conscience. And you do that with trivia. And the more trivial it is, the more it has an anesthetizing effect on your conscience. So what happens when you close your eyes and you utter a mantra, whether it's a church mantra or a Maharishi mantra, all mantras have the same effect as music. You lose yourself in a sound and you move away from reality. And you feel, all of a sudden you feel happy and you smile like a Cheshire cat. Nearly all those kind of people who meditate. You ever see that funny look on Maharishi's face? Like this, like the cat swallowed a canary. I didn't do it. It's sort of peace apart from God, not peace with Him. Now the purpose of meditation is not to become hypnotically involved in some technique which gives control over to the person who gives you the mantra. The person who gives you the mantra you believe in, and you end up by following his techniques in a hypnotic state connected to the mind of your guru. So in effect, you are hypnotized and you do not know you're hypnotized. We'll have a discussion one evening of what hypnosis is all about too. But you're hypnotized and you're in a state of lesser consciousness, not greater consciousness, but less consciousness often seems like more consciousness. Because your dreams become more vivid. Ambition becomes possible and not forbidden. Less consciousness is more exciting. And it takes excitement to produce lesser consciousness. It gives you illusion of yourself. It takes you aware of guilt. It takes you away from guilt and releases you from the pain of guilt. So it seems to free you and give you a sensation of freedom. But freedom from knowing the truth. Freedom, from God is an enslavement to that which frees you. You see, it's just like if you smoke and drink. It frees you from conscience. It takes you away from guilt. It's peace apart from God, but an enslavement to the processes that aid and abet you in this way. So enough said about the negative, wrong way of meditating. I want to show you about the right way of meditation, what the purpose is. Now, the trouble with all of us, and the reason why we have to meditate, is because We are reflections of our environment. That's all we are. Simply conditioned reflex responses. And we've built a personality, an identity, from these reactions. We're the extensions of our environment. And as human beings, that ought not be so. Animals, rightly so, are the evolution, if you like, of their environment. They are made of their environment, the substance of their environment. They are turned on, motivated by their environment, forces in their environment. They take on the likeness and the form of their environment. The chameleon can adapt to its environment. The giraffe develops a long neck through a process of genetic passing its survival mechanisms on to the next generation. It's selection, it's natural selection. But all animals and all creatures are tied to their environment, and as such they are slaves. And I don't want to go into a lot on that subject, but it's sufficient to say that they are just reflections and subject to the gravitational pull. They're not free. They're subject to that environment. There's not a thing in this universe that's free. Everything moves in orbits and circles. If everything was free, if anything was free in this universe, the universe would be chaotic. I mean, only human beings can be free from their original environment, which is their conscience. And they are free because most people, the reason why we want to be free, because we want to attain to the vain, to the glorious state that a God has. In other words, we all try to be God. Most of us unconsciously, because the whole process of being caught up in the process of being God is unconscious. We have to be unconscious of the reality. Because if we were conscious of reality, you see, then we could see by the light of that reality that we couldn't be God. So as long as we want to be God, see, we have to find something that pulls us away from realizing that this can't be so, and gives us the lie that it can be so. And this state is a lesser consciousness, but it seems like a greater consciousness, if you see what I mean, because it fulfills a dream, a concept, or a dream promise, a dream hope. Anything that fulfills that dream hope, see, gives us the idea that we're becoming more when we're becoming less. Every high is a new low. Every person who drinks, everybody who goes to church and gets high on going to church, everybody who gets the ego titillated, stimulated, has this purpose of getting away from the reality that they are less into the illusion that they're more. See, so now, for this reason, all human beings who are prideful are caught up with their external reality, and they know very little of the inner reality that they were born to know and to take shape from. And for this reason, we all have conflict, because it's a wordless language. It's an experience we have probably never tasted from the day we were born, because the environment that we come into is full of egomaniacs, full of crazy souls, all wrongs trying to be a right, that have no tolerance for you, your innocence. They're afraid that your innocence will shine through you and make them ashamed. Therefore, they have no tolerance for the truth in themselves, nor do they have, and less do they have tolerance for the truth in you. Now, yes, young lady, with just 1 second, we'll have, I'm glad you put your hand up, because we don't have too many questions. I'm glad you have the courage to stand up and say whatever you want to say. Thank you.
Well, I wondered, why is it that it always happens to be one member in a family who happens to be the outspoken one, the one who questions and is always being considered a troublemaker?
Yes, well, that's always the case. You're correct. Some of the brightest people are alcoholics, because when they come into the world, they come into a scumbag environment, if you'll pardon the vernacular. And that scumbag environment, whether it's school, whether it's family, when they have a bright little innocent thing that starts to look through its crystal clear blue eyes and see the world for what it is and the family for what it is, it creates a great deal of pain, because the light is still shining through that child. It's not put out yet. It's not corrupted. It isn't supportive. When somebody is worse than yourself, you can condemn them. If they're like yourself, then you support one another. Neither way are you threatened. You see what I'm saying? So the little child comes into the world and it sees the insanity and the craziness and the foolishness. And it doesn't have to say very much. It only has to, is to look with that look. Like I have. I had that childlike innocence in me. I still have it. My wife has always told me, now I believe it. Because she's always seen it. It's always scared the hell out of her, but needless to say. And she's always tried to put it out. But thank good she couldn't. Thank goodness for her, you see. She benefits by it. But it bothered her that I could see. It bothered her that she couldn't control me. See? And it bothers people that you can see them for what they are. You see what I'm saying?
Off and on, but I've been made to doubt it more than I have.
Yes, well, there's your secret. Faith and doubt. And we had a lecture on that subject before, but the whole idea, thank you for the question, is to come back to that original innocence that you lost as a child. Because when you went to school, and when you were around people children who were destroyed, they always ridiculed. They ridiculed just like once they become destroyed, they have no tolerance for your innocence either. So even children destroy children. You see, so what's very important for you and everybody is to come back to the original innocence, and because we are originally designed to respond from the inner ground of that being, and to take shape and to flower from that invisible ground of being rather than the visible ground, you see. Because it is born into us, because we're spirit as well as flesh, see, and because that spiritual part of us groans in the conflict, because it's not its natural environment to be steeped in emotion and compensate from the earth like the animals do, you see, and to take their motivations from one another, you see, because you grow and evolve depending on how you react and what motivates you. You take your nature from what motivates you. So if you react to the world outside you, and you know, when you come into the world, you're not taught how to prevent that from happening, and on the contrary, you're taught that it's right that you should react to environment, you should love, you should hate, you should overreact, you should seek pleasure and excitement and thrills, and you're taught to seek that to complete the self. But that's not the true self. Another self starts to grow up in its place. And this self, the darker self, the earth self, the death-centered self actually, conflicts with the purpose for which we were created, and it serves a different God. It serves a different system. It serves a different spirit. Now some people are content to serve that spirit, and some people like to kosherize it, religiousize it, and meditate it. But those kind of people will always be seeking the truth, just like the alcoholic seeks the truth. The truth he seeks is oblivion to the truth. He seeks the excitement and the confirmation that he is all right when he's not. That could be done religiously, it could be done meditatively, it could be done by drugs, and it could be done by music. But those kind of people get what they deserve. They think they're getting better and better and better, and they're becoming more and more animals. You see, now, the purpose of the meditation is for you people who feel suffering and realize that something is wrong with the way you exist. And you're seeking that something missing part of yourself that you may have never known. And I have sought that in my life, and I have found the answer. And I found that we have to disconnect. We must shut off. A lot of emotionally disturbed people are so emotionally disturbed that they shut out everything. They shut down their reactions, and they literally die inside. They become catatonic, because the pain of the overwhelming emotions and effect of environment is too much for their subconscious, even for their subconscious mind to bear. It's very destructive. Once you start reacting, you react more and more and more and more until your arteries burst and you have strokes and blood pressure, disease. You know, there's only so much emotion you can take. And of course, the more guilty you are, the more emotion you need to escape from reality. So eventually you have more emotion than animals normally need to function, because you're using it to escape guilt. But that itself is guilt. So when you're rejecting truth with emotion, you got more guilt for rejecting truth. What is guilt but rejecting truth? To become whatever it is you want to become. To find freedom, such freedom as you think is freedom, to do your own thing, but it isn't your own thing. You're actually becoming shaped by your environment, and a very ugly thing is beginning to take form in you. Now, some people don't want to ever see that, and they're content to live in their religions, in their drug, in their drunken stupor, in their music. But you people, you are searching. You're the sincere ones. You're not. Your soul is not compatible with what makes other people happy makes you unhappy. You'll do the same thing, but you won't enjoy it the way they do. It breeds the dissatisfaction, where them it breeds only a greater hunger. It may breed a greater hunger in you, but also a greater dissatisfaction. You begin to know eventually there's something wrong with it, and you know that when you finally realize there's something wrong with it, you seek a higher ground. Then you hear a man like me. And I have found the way. I want to show it to you this evening. First part. We have to understand the psychodynamics of the meditation. Okay, you know that, as I stated in the opening of my discussion, that the reason why people are motivated by their environment is because technically they are separated from the ground of their being. There's only two places a consciousness can live. It can live in the thoughts and emotions, and therefore be the extension of reaction, feeling, thought, right? And then believe whatever they want to believe, because the reactions and the feelings produce the thoughts, the kind of thoughts they want to believe. And they're caught up in the thoughts, so much caught up in the thoughts, so fixated are they can never find reality because they think they already have it. They think they're already happy. See, they think they found love. So and so and so and so. So, the secret is then, you must separate from your thought process. Like dreaming. You know when you're dreaming, a bad dream, a nightmare, and you know how your emotions are evoked, sexual emotions in a dream with sexual feelings, of fear, horror, some horrible creatures chasing you with knives, headless monster. You open the door to escape and there's two headless monsters in there. See, greater horror. What is the way to deal with the emotions in your dream? The only real way is to wake up. When you wake up, you are more objective than you were when you were asleep. A strange thing happens when you wake up, when you're more objective. The light shining through the window of your soul comes to bear on the thoughts, and you say, oh, that's not reality. Why should I react to it? You're not saying that. But the very fact that you awaken from the Alice in Wonderland state that you're in is sufficient to calm the emotions. I don't know if I told you the story, but when I was in boarding school, we were, a lot of naughty little kids, and one day we had a pillow fight, and the door opened and closed in the dormitory. Someone obviously come in, and the light went on, and everybody was fast asleep, but there was all feathers floating all over. This is a true story. See, the moral to the story is when the authority comes in the room, the little boys behave themselves. And when the authority is not there, everything is in the turmoil. They do what they like. Now your body is a donkey, it's stupid. It's subject to all the environmental pressures, other kids' feelings and impish desires. But the minute the authority comes in, the light comes through the window, and you start to become conscious, the little gremlins of your underworld, unconscious thinking, start to behave themselves. Now, you don't need to control yourself any more than to become conscious, but you people sitting in this room, I know that many of you are practicing the meditation that I'm teaching you, but before you learned it, you lived in a state of, you were not completely conscious. You see, animals are awake, but they're not aware. Yes, ma'am. The young man will bring the microphone over.
How do you explain the phenomenon of dolphins then?
Well, I don't know about dolphins. Dolphins are still an animal, has no consciousness, like animals do.
But it does have awareness.
No, it does have no awareness.
Then why does it save people, and why does it come around when there's sounds and music?
It has nothing to do with awareness.
It doesn't?
It has nothing to do with awareness, but we haven't got the time to discuss it this
Okay.
evening because we'll get off the subject.
Okay.
Animals cannot have awareness like human beings. Only man is made in the image of the Creator and has something of the Creator in him, some of his nature in him. So we have two natures. We have a nature from the earth and a nature from below and from above.
So you're saying that animals can have a consciousness, but it's not like
They
humans?
have they're not even conscious. They are awake and then they're asleep. Do you know that people can walk around, as a matter of fact, you can walk around in a semi-conscious state. You can walk down the street and not even see your best friends when you're preoccupied with your thoughts. You can actually drive down the street and drive 20 miles and forget that have you ever been driven a long way and not know how you got there? But you drove safely. You drove in a state of sort of somnambulism, but your consciousness wasn't present. But your unconscious mind was sufficient to stop at stoplights and do all kinds of things that were perfectly safe. People with amnesia can have no consciousness and still do what they do, but not have consciousness of what they're doing. Yes, sir.
Yeah. What you just said about people doing something while being conscious about what they're doing.
Oh, yes, but I didn't want to go into... I'm trying to talk about meditation now, and the only reason why I brought that up is because I wanted to sort of show you an aspect of consciousness which is important into the meditative state.
Yes. Well, about the meditation exercise, what you said about how we get mostly lost in our dream state when we're asleep. Is this the reason why?
No. You get lost in your dream state while you're awake.
Well,
See now that it's bad enough when you in your sleep, but when a person, let's put it this way. Let's say the subconscious mind is a deep ocean, and there are sharks and swordfish and octopus and barracuda, and you're swimming around down in that ocean. Now you're going to be terrified because you never know when the octopus or the shark is going to grab your leg. You're going to be preoccupied because you're immersed in the soup of the sea. Now, you feel much more relieved if you can get out into a boat or even to a helicopter and become distance yourself from the sea, even just be on top of it. Well, on top of it is not as safe as being in a helicopter, just above it, because there's still going to be a shark bigger than your boat, using that as an analogy, okay? So it is, so that hypnotic states, dream states, even though if you put somebody in a state of hypnosis and you wake them up, the fact that they're awake still leaves them connected to the suggestions you put into their mind. See, so that they may be on the surface of the water and maybe in the boat, but the boat can still be rocked. They can still feel the waves, see, and the tempest of the sea. They're not completely safe. They're still subject to the environmental programming you can put them in. They're connected to that. And as long as your soul is connected, see, to that unconscious stream, the ocean, you will always be affected by your past, by your guilts. You'll always struggle against whatever feelings rise. But what can a person do? You're swimming around in an ocean with jaws. I mean, you can't think very clearly about anything else but jaws. See, you're limited in your thinking capacity. But if you could be free and have a nice big boat, or go fishing from your helicopter so you really couldn't get you. You know, you're actually on your territory. You're fishing, you know, you're on your territory. You go hunting for alligators, you don't go in the water with the alligator. You try to get him onto your ground, right? Into your element. All right, now, that's fair enough analogy. Meditation, you must separate the conscious mind from the unconscious ocean. Now, there's only two places the conscious mind can be. It's like an airplane, okay? The airplane's a beautiful design. You really don't fully appreciate the design of the airplane until it takes to the air. When it's on the ground, it obeys the law of the ground, laws of the earth, gravity there. But the minute it gathers certain speed and it reaches airspeed, then suddenly the laws of the air take over. Now, it's the same thing in the objective state man. There's only two places you can be. You can be on the ground, in the ocean, subject to the earthquakes and convulsions and vibrations, your subconscious thinking. Or you can be objective in the air, subject to the laws of the air. Now this is what you want to be. Your soul is either subject, you're an airplane, and your proper place is in the sky. You come to rest every now and then, but rest is not your true place, on the ground. Only when you're in the air, objective to the thought stream, can you appreciate and experience the laws of the air, the laws of that other dimension. Can you know the truth? If you don't have that state, you may know the truth, but you're not subject to it, because even though you're an airplane designed for the air, the ground has got you. You see? So if you could be in the objective state, you'll be like the authority that came into the room with the feathers floating around, you know. You have that effect on your subconscious little boys, your naughty little boys, unruly emotions of your subconscious. You have that effect without even struggling. It's just like when you wake up from a nightmare, you have the effect of waking up from your nightmare, although you're not fully conscious, meaning you may be awake but not completely aware. Now, in my next discussion with you, I'm going to go into the difference between awake and aware. Of course, actually, I've touched on that to some degree. But an awareness is a different state. It's when you are awake on the surface of the water, still touching, that's awake. But aware is separate from the surface and with absolute mastery over all of your emotions, with a full knowledge of God. Otherwise, if you're just awake and not aware, you may know the truth, but you can't live it. You're still subject to the laws of the subconscious. And that's, in psychology, they should be teaching you this. See? But they don't understand these things. You only have to begin with, you only have to be conscious. All right, now, I want to thank you for being with me with this segment of the program, and tomorrow night we're going to go on. It'll still be tonight for us, but for the viewers it's going to be tomorrow night with this thing on meditation. So hope that you'll join us again, the viewers that is, and get the meditation that we are selling at the foundation. If you can't afford it, we'll give it to you for whatever you can afford. Thanks for listening, and join us again.